Thank you, Whitaker. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Columbus, an inclusive religious community of people supporting each other in the search for truth and meaning. I'm Rick Spradlin, your service leader. The chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It speaks to us of reason, tolerance, and freedom, but also of compassion, respect, and love. May its flame ever warm and illuminate our lives. And now for our announcements. This Sunday, being the third week of the month, we give away the plate. So what we give in offering today will be donated to Feeding the Valley, an organization that helps with homeless in the Columbus area. And now, one of the ways we proclaim the vitality of our fellowship is through sharing brief and personal joys and concerns. I'll start by lighting a candle for our unspoken fears or concerns. Our thoughts go out today to Susan Stevenson. She lost a longtime companion in her cat that she's had for over 18 years. Now, have you ever had a pet for that amount of time, you understand how close the bond can be. So, Susan, our hearts are with you. If you have any joys or concerns that you would like to share, please email those to our president, Hal Majette, or our office administrator, Brenda Stevens, at uufcga@gmail.com. And now let us once again affirm the 7 principles which sum up the core values that Unitarian Universalist congregations support and promote. Number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. 3, the acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations and in society at large. 4, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. 5, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. And now for our celebration of life toast. If you have something to drink, you can use that, or just toast with me in spirit. We celebrate life. We celebrate life with its beauty and its pain. We lift these cups in tribute to the achievements of human minds and hands and in sensitivity to the frustrations of misfortune and heartache. Not fixing blame or credit for the outcome of chance, sensing the risk, savoring the joy, sharing it all. Knowing of the certainty of death and remembering the value of each moment, we drink our toast of celebration to this time, to the future, to each other, to the throbbing of the earth and sea and sky with life. Together, we drink as toast in celebration of life. And now for our offering. If you would like to contribute, you can mail your contribution to UU Fellowship of Columbus, Box 698, Fortson, Georgia, 31808. We have a PayPal account set up as well. And remember, this being third Sunday, we will be giving away the plate to Feed the Valley. And now a reading from one of our members, Danielle Neal.
Thank you. I would like to read a reflection on the fourth principle. As responsible religious seekers, we recognize that we are privileged to be free, to have resources to pursue life beyond mere survival, to continually search for truth and meaning, to exist beyond bonds of dogma and oppression, and to wrestle freely with truth and meaning as they evolve. This privilege calls us not to be isolated and self-centered, believing that our single perspective trumps all others, but rather to be humble, to be open to the great mysteries of truth and meaning that life offers. And those mysteries may speak to us through our own intuition and experience, but also through tradition, community, conflict, nature, and relationships. As a faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism makes sacred the right and responsibility to engage in this free and responsible quest as an act of religious devotion. Institutionally, we have left open the questions of what truth and meaning are, acknowledging that mindful people will, in every age, discover new insights. Thank you. Have a good Sunday.
Thank you, Danielle. Absolute truth. What do Unitarian Universalists believe? In The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a science fiction comedy written by a British author named Douglas Adams, a race of pan-dimensional beings got so sick and tired of everyone bickering and debating about the meaning of life that they constructed a colossal supercomputer called Deep Thought. They then tasked Deep Thought with calculating the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. After 7.5 million years, Deep Thought finally revealed the ultimate answer to the question of life, the universe, and everything. It revealed that the ultimate answer was, in fact, 42. Yes, after 7.5 million years of calculating impossibly complicated quantum, philosophical, and moral algorithms, the answer was definitely 42. Yeah, unfortunately, without knowing the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, the answer was incomprehensible. So they really were no better off than when they first started. If you've never read that series, it's a lot of fun. It's a 4-book trilogy, and yes, that's part of the joke. With over 4 billion people in the world and thousands of languages, it comes as no surprise that there are many different ideas concerning truth. Philosophers speak of knowing 4 different ways of knowing things, of what we know. Number 1, there's through experience. Number 2, by way of language. 3, through intuition or emotion. And 4, through logical reasoning. History is filled with opposing views on how truth is obtained and how knowledge should be used. Isaac Asimov, science and science fiction writer, said that there is a cult of ignorance in the United States, and there always has been. The strain of anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread winding its way through our political and cultural life, nourished by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your facts. The fourth principle of Unitarian Universalism is the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. With this being one of our principles, it may be surprising to learn that one of the criticisms leveled at UU from some theological circles is the almost unanimous rejection among many UUs of the notion of absolute truth, truth with a capital T. There is no Unitarian creed, no specified list of things that UUs must believe. That's mostly because Unitarians are skeptical about any one person or tradition possessing the whole truth. We're also increasingly aware of the inherent value of diversity of opinion when it comes to the search for truth and meaning. That doesn't preclude Unitarians from believing in absolute truth. It's just that as an organization, we don't believe in spiritual bureaucracies that act as the guardians of truth. Truth is something that has to be searched for in order to be comprehended. We tend to lean more towards empirical knowledge, most of us anyway. Empirical knowledge is gained through experience, and experience is gained through the senses. Absolute truth, in the empirical sense, would first require absolute experience and total accuracy of sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. Since every individual only has a limited lifespan, and we cannot completely experience the lives of those who pass down their knowledge through books, we only have a limited field of accumulated knowledge and experience from which to base our acquisition of truth. Truth can be defined as the quality or state of being true. Absolute truth is narrowly defined as something that is true at all times and in all places, is something that is always true no matter what the circumstances are. It's a fact that cannot be changed. For example, there are no round squares. There are also no square circles. The sum of the angles of any triangle will equal 180 degrees. These are all true by definition. Absolute truths are discovered, not invented. They exist regardless of cultural bias. The sum of the angles of a triangle is a mathematical truth that holds true in the real world as well as it does on paper. But some simple truths of arithmetic only hold true when 1 equals 1. For example, on paper, it is always assumed that 1 equals 1, and therefore 2 plus 2 equals 4. But in the real world, it cannot always be assumed that 1 equals 1. In fact, 1 rarely equals 1. For example, 1 apple does not equal 1 chicken. The equation 1 apple plus 1 chicken equals 2 bars of gold would be absurd. But when you ask the average person on the street about absolute truth, they will almost invariably skip this simple logic and jump headfirst into arguments about morality. For some reason, any discussion of absolute truth always seems to lead to a discussion of moral absolutism versus moral relativism. Moral absolutism being the belief that some actions can be determined as right or wrong independently of their circumstances, and moral relativism, which states that the circumstances of a behavior must be taken into effect before a judgment can be made. The commandment found in the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran that states, "Thou shalt not murder," is often used as an example of absolute morality for many followers of those three faiths, while at the same time it can be viewed as an example of moral relativism. It illustrates moral absolutism when phrased, "It is always right to follow the commandments." But it can also be considered as moral relative when we focus on the difference in definition between killing and in self-defense, between murder and killing in self-defense. Murder can be defined as the killing of another human being without just cause. And that qualifier, without just cause, makes the action relative to the circumstances surrounding it. This distinguishes murder from other homicides, such as killing in self-defense. So, by the circumstances that lead to the killing to define murder as different from self-defense, the commandment sets up a relative judgment to determine if killing another human being is wrong. But for Christian pacifists, Buddhists, Jainists, some forms of Hinduism, and others, "Thou shalt not kill," or "do no harm," is taken to be an absolute truth, and they oppose all acts of homicide or violence for any circumstance. For this reason, it cannot be said that Unitarian Universalists are uniformly opposed to all forms of absolute morality, since these faiths are included in the UUA's pantheon of beliefs. It's not so much that Unitarian Universalists don't believe in absolute moral truth. It's more that we reject the notion of a spiritual bureaucracy that can possess a moral vantage point from which to hand down these truths. We prefer to treat truth as a verb rather than a noun. Truth in general cannot be handed to you. You have to go looking for it, experience it. In the spiritual sense, it's more uplifting for us to realize and accept that the truth we may possess is incomplete and not entirely true. It brings with it a sense of humility that is more beneficial than the belief that your truth is absolute. Belief in an absolute moral authority can stifle debate on moral issues, debate that could help us refine our understanding of those truths. I'll close with a little quick illustration. A wise man put himself on a road to find absolute truth. Along the way, he came to a fork in the road where it divided into two paths. The road on the left was a jagged, rocky, thorn-filled path, while the road on the right was paved smooth, straight, and narrow. The jagged path on the left had a sign that read, "This road will be filled with hardship, failure, and pain, but if you endure to the end, you will know only a little more than you know already." The smooth path on the right also had a sign, but it read, "Few had the option to travel this path. This road is straight and sure, and at the end, you will gain a valuable kernel of absolute truth." The wise man chose the road to the right, and as he traveled, he came into a canyon with high, steep walls. The walls of the canyon closed in on him as he walked until they were only shoulder width apart. At the end of the road, he came upon a waist-high table with a golden treasure chest perched on top. He opened the box with ease and found inside an ancient-looking scroll. He unrolled the scroll, and it read, "It can be accepted in all times and across all cultures that truth can neither be obtained nor comprehended without enduring the failure and hardships necessary for discovery. Turn around, have courage, and take the other road." Thank you for listening. And now, before we extinguish the chalice, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see each other soon. We extinguish the chalice here that it might glow gently in our hearts as we leave this place. Now for our closing words. With unity of spirit, we go our ways in universal fellowship until we meet again. So long. And now Whitaker will play us home. Whitaker.